Does anyone know what this is called? Who said it? This is an amice. Does anyone know what the word amice means? No? Well, it comes from a Latin word, amictus, which means helmet. I'm actually wearing an amice now. You can just see it tucked over my collar here. It's the first thing a priest puts on when he's getting ready for Mass. And what I do, in the secrecy of my sacristy, is I put it over the back of my head. I touch my head with it, and as I touch my head with the amice, I say to myself, or to God, "Place upon me, O Lord, the helmet of salvation, so that I may overcome the assaults of the devil." It's the first defense in the act of spiritual warfare, which is the sacrifice of the Mass, the Lord's Supper. It is there to clear the thoughts, so to speak, in a spiritual sense for what is about to be done, so no evil may enter the mind of a Christian as they enter this sacred moment. So it's quite appropriate. But it is a symbol of warfare. Tonight, the amice becomes an apron, which is its designation in the Mass. The Mass of the Lord's Supper. And I want to reflect on that for a moment. Jesus, as we saw at the beginning of Lent, went into the desert. The desert fathers, the early fathers of the church, would go out into the desert in imitation of Jesus, not to run away from the evil of the world, but rather to go into the place where they would confront the evil of the world, the evil that was within. They were going to open warfare with the devil and face all kinds of temptation. When Jesus entered the desert at the beginning of his ministry, he placed the helmet of salvation. He went into spiritual warfare so that at the end of his ministry, our act of salvation would be complete. And here we find ourselves at the Last Supper. Jesus, on the night before he died, had enemies all around him, even at his table. The one who was to betray him was there. The soldiers were more or less at the door. The decision had been made. At that time, at that moment, in his most vulnerable state, what does he do? He takes off his helmet and makes it into his apron. He takes off his final defense and submits himself to the power of the evil one. And in the face of that evil, he loved to the very end. He got down on his knees, and that which had been his defense was now the thing that defended him from one thing: the dirt of his disciples' feet. He accumulated and took upon himself the dirt of our low self-esteem, of our damage, of our bad decisions, the bad decisions made against us, all the things we've ever done wrong, our pride, our selfishness, our vulnerability. He took it all upon himself. Surrounded by death, he took upon our sin at that moment and gave us the example to copy. Now in the Mass, I don't walk in a helmet, do I? I'm not wearing, that would look a bit weird, I think. Just even now, it's not the Super Bowl. That amice is put around the priest's shoulders. It gets put on my shoulders, I touch it on my head, goes on my shoulders, and then I tuck it in my collar. So now I'm wearing this helmet, which is an apron, as a yoke. Jesus says, doesn't he? Shoulder my yoke and learn from me, because my burden is light. When we place our burdens on the shoulders of Jesus, he gives them back to us. He doesn't take them away from us, because life goes on, doesn't it? Even in the face of all our suffering. He gives it back to us, redeemed. He gives it back to us so that it's light. Still dirty, still in need of repair, but redeemed. That's what he came to show us at the Last Supper. That in the face of evil, we don't surrender to it. We don't join in with it. We respond with love, as he did. From this moment, having washed his disciples' feet, they didn't understand, did they? Peter did not understand. But it was this act that showed the power of evil in the world, the power of sin, that the life that Jesus had lived was indestructible. Jesus was going to go to his death on Good Friday, and he was going to rise from the dead because of the decision he had made. That even in the face of the greatest opposition, even in the face of the greatest evil, he would love to the very end. As we journey from this Last Supper, as we consume his body and his blood, as we bear the light yoke he gives to us, let us journey into Good Friday. Let us go to that place with him and beyond into our lives, beyond this church, and imitate his example. Let us journey with Jesus to the very end, and like him, as he commanded us to do, copy him and love to the very end. Amen.